Huh? Where are you? Don't be shy. There you are. All right, so here's Cheryl's prospecting letter to the alternative health industry and the self-help direct response industry. So first of all, we're going to send the same letter to two different industries. All right? Not smart. One size fits all. Why? Then, it's pretty vanilla. There's no demonstration really of strategies, tactics. The kind of things you would do for a client are not demonstrated here. It fails to discredit other options and make her the only choice. There's not a lot of emotion in it. And a call to action is just horrible. Right? So the call to action, I'm going to make it up to you in a minute. So the call to action is, give me a call today, I'd love to discuss your project, yada, yada. Okay? Well, first of all, give me a call today means what? Yeah, it means you're sitting around waiting for a call. Right? It implies you're going to be able to reach her. Give me a call today, I'm hanging around. Well, that ain't no good. Okay? Then, I would love to discuss your project. What does that imply? Free. That's what that implies. Right? Well, unless you're sleeping with them, you ought not to be loving discussing their project. No, nobody's project's that good. Right? So, I did a fix. I told you I'd make it up to you. So here's my fix, starting on page 141. So first of all, I made it to the alternative health guys only. I didn't write a personal development one too. All right? My very first personal benefit, which a lot of people don't understand this in B2B. B2B marketing, you still want to be personal, right? Because businesses don't buy anything, only human beings buy things. And human beings care about themselves more than anything else. So read this letter to slash your stress by 90%. Right? That's a personal benefit. It's not a business benefit. Right? Then I give them two possibilities that could happen. We might significantly boost your response from your outreach for new customers, or we might get more sales from existing actives. Now, some of this I took from her copy, by the way, so if you go back and look at her copy later when you compare it. I mean, I didn't start from scratch. But now, I want some differentiation. So I want to immediately engage them with, if I'm Cheryl, how am I different? So here I've done, there's two possibilities. Well, I used one of the other ones later because she has a great credibility differentiation. But so I chose, in this case, I'm going to differentiate by disgust. Right? It's always a good one because I get to invalidate everybody else that they might be dealing with. Right? So I'm mad as I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Paragraph is the first paragraph. It seconds me that there's a bunch of nitwits out there selling themselves as copywriters to the alternative health field who don't know crap about alternative health. They're doing cut and paste stuff. Everybody wants to work with you. Everybody's trying to get in your wallet, but really, nobody's qualified to be there. Okay? Then I go to one of the top 3 entirely justified complaints of alternative health clients. Right? Safe bet, this does aggravate them. I happen to know every one of them has mentioned it to me, so I know it aggravates them. And it links nicely to the expertise that she brings to the table, which we're going to get to, which she had in her other letter. So one of the top 3 complaints is that copywriters deliver stuff they can't use because it's illegal. So they deliver stuff that's super hypey, that everybody will go to jail if they use, and then they either got to wind up rewriting it all or they can't use it at all. And in part it's because the copywriters don't really know anything about the FDA and the FTC's rules and regulations about health claims. Right? So that's a good reason to hire somebody who does know, which is where we're going. Okay? So now, here's our reason why paragraph. Here's why you can count on me, okay, to deliver. So first, sales and marketing experience. And novel philosophy. Great copy is, as you undoubtedly know, doesn't matter whether they know it or not, salesmanship and print. But shockingly, a lot of people hold themselves out as copywriters have never sold notes. Why have I done that? Well, the odds are excellent that the guy running an alternative health company has sold nose to nose, toes to toes. They almost all came up the sales route. Hardly any of them came out of Harvard with an MBA in nutrition and decided to start a company selling Icelandic cod gel that you rub between your toes in order to cure your cholesterol. Okay? They came up the sales route. Okay? So now we're one of them. Okay? Next, and here's your big credibility issue, right? Advanced degree in clinical nutrition. So she has the educational background to deal with scientific research. That's the feature. The rest of the paragraph is all benefits, and it links back to the thing they don't like, which even if it hadn't occurred to them that that was something they didn't like, now that we told them they didn't like it, they don't like it. Copywriters delivering copy they have to rewrite or they can't use, right? Third, personal passion for alternative health, okay? So like I'm into this stuff, which means I understand your customer because they're into it too. Fourth, experience across all media platforms, so I can do online, offline, all that shit. Front end, back end. Okay? Now, I'm using terminology, right? Front end, back end. Okay? In some instances, you wouldn't do it. In this case, again, most of the people who own and run alternative health companies are not only sales oriented, they're direct marketing oriented. And frankly, if they don't know what front end, back end means, I don't know that you want them as a client. Okay? So I've gone ahead and used inside baseball language, if you will. Now, the plus of doing it is, what am I doing? I'm demonstrating a certain level of sophistication here because I know what front end, back end is. So I'm talking the language that they're talking, sitting in their room with their three top lieutenants, okay? So I've built a 5 reason why argument for Cheryl after first establishing that they hate everybody they're dealing with now, and there's a good reason why they hate them. Then I do my call to action, what to do next, right? And I take it to a limit. To begin, a 30-minute discussion is complimentary, not open-ended. I'd love to talk to you for as long as, A, they don't want to talk to you forever, and you shouldn't be available to talk to them forever, at least for free. So 30-minute consultation. Okay? Now we have to explain, we somehow have to deal with, when we are overtly prospecting, we have to deal with, if you're so good, why in the hell are you prospecting? We have to deal with it, because anybody who doesn't think of it is too dumb to have as a client. So they're thinking of it, we can't ignore it. So quickly, and with what I knew, I did the best I could, right? I have an opening for a new client now, which is not always the case. And I chose you after reviewing your website, your infomercial, your catalogs, whatever, and I would say something there about their thing. So I chose you after reviewing your websites and seeing that you've got multiple products and a continuity program. Or after reviewing your website and seeing that you've got high transaction value. So I would have a reason for that person, so that's where the letter get customized a little bit, and candidly detecting weaknesses in your copy. Now what does that do? Come on. Yeah, curiosity. The guy's going to think about that. Well, okay, she sounds kind of like she knows what she's doing. She kind of gets our industry, and she's detected weaknesses. I want to know what the weaknesses are. I want to know that, whether I have any thought of hiring her or not. So how am I going to find out that? I got to do what she tells me I got to talk to her, because I want to know what the hell she thinks is weakness, right? Obviously, I'd like to explore. So what kind of marketer would I be if I neglected offering a compelling premium? All right? We're going to do some demonstration here. We should be what we sell. So if we're going to prospect by ads, direct mail, web, whatever, we should be using the techniques that we're going to use for them, and preferably ones they already recognize. So, okay, we know we use premiums. The whole industry revolves around premiums, right? You sell Icelandic cod pills with 50 free reports. And if you're buying a 30-day supply, you get 20 of the reports if you buy a... So they all know this, right? This is where they live. So we've connected with what they're used to. Compelling premium. Get in touch with me no later than the date stamp below in red, so we're doing a deadline, and I'll send you 2 free reports. And now we've written 2 free reports. Okay? The free reports, of course, are going to further our cause, right? So they're going to ultimately be about us. And then I've got my disclosure. So my PS, I've got disclosure. A little confession in advance. I'm not the most experienced copywriter on the planet. My freelancer career is 3 years young. Is that true? Did I pull that from yours? Yeah. My freelancer career is 3 years young. However, longevity is no guarantee at all of delivering successful outcomes in any particular situation. So I got to make the best argument I can make for who I am. If I had 30 years experience, by the way, I'd be making the exact opposite argument. P.S. You don't want a bunch of beginners in there fouling up your nest. I'm the guy, right? I mean, you sell what you got, right? But you got to make this argument because your success hinges on it. So I want to plant that, and I want to get them to nod. Well, I guess that's true. That makes sense, right? As a matter of fact, a set of fresh eyes can be a big plus. For this reason, I give every client I accept a simple guarantee. Right? If you're getting royalties, by the way, this is an easy guarantee to give. I give it. I don't call it a guarantee, but the deal is, as long as you're spending money testing, I'll spend money trying to improve it because I'm in the game with royalties. So why wouldn't you do it, right? Okay? And then, again, because I want to sound smart, okay, I get a second PPS. It's all about me just sounding smart. That's all it is, okay? Now, let's vote. Who liked Cheryl's letter best? No takers, huh? In her defense, it's not easy to sell yourself. And overt selling of yourself is very difficult. Okay? But you better pull out all the guns because it's very difficult. By the way, this would have gone in a FedEx. It would have gone in a confidential package. It probably would have gone with some doohickey. But my follow-up letter goes with a doohickey. So my second notice, I don't know if you can hear this or not. So this has the Lion King lion on it. And it says, I'm surrounded by idiots. And when you...
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Okay? Now, there's not a soul on earth who doesn't want it on their desk. Okay? I've got one I sent. It's a red, it's got a BS button. It's got a bullshit button. And 5 different ways in a big cowboy voice it says, this is bullshit. You press it again, it says, this isn't even bullshit. This is worse than bullshit. When it says, it smells like bullshit around here. Okay? Well, who's not? They got it. They're running around showing it to people. Okay? They're obligated by it. You can get it imprinted. Those guys can get shit for you with it imprinted with your ID if you want it. But it wouldn't even be necessary in small quantities. Okay? So I'm going to send my second notice, which is, idiots. Well, second notice, how often do you mutter or yell, I'm surrounded by idiots? Dear so-and-so, as you can see, I've sent you a gift. Push the button. The lion will roar. I'm surrounded by idiots. So you can save your voice. Okay? Now, enclosed is a duplicate copy of the letter of introduction I sent you about a week ago, which, by the way, I would junk it up with copy doodles like there's no tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, pay attention. Okay? It lays out my case for myself, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Then it deals with the objection, the reason why they might not have responded, and it tries to get them to respond. Okay? We're also doing demonstration. We sent him a doodad. Guy says, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe we should be sending out a doodad. How come my guy hasn't told me about doodads? Right? So I'm doing demonstration. I'm doing pursuit. I have to do pursuit if I'm going to be overt. So I'm doing pursuit. That alone, now it's going to cost you about $5 probably to deliver that, so you can't be sending out 50,000 of them, but that further obligates the call. And by the way, the bigger the doodad or the more fun the doodad or the cooler the doodad, the more it obligates the call. You will get calls like, listen, I'm in love with my copywriter. We got a great relationship. I've been using the same person for 20 years. I don't want to change, but what you sent was brilliant, and I didn't want to not acknowledge it. I mean, you'll get that kind of response, which admittedly doesn't put any money in your pocket, but still. Okay? So if I'm going to do directories, for God's sakes, get the prices out of the page, and let's write some good copy for ourselves in the directory. If you're going to do direct mail, I mean, let's pull out all the stops, man. If we're going to be overt, we're trying to overcome a big hurdle. So we better be really good at being overt. Okay? You're welcome to use that if you like it. Okay? Where are they? How are we going to find clients? Well, there are clients who actually advertise for copywriters. So you all know about that. Okay? There's industry directories. We're going to take a look at one in a second. We looked at another. So there's the DMA crowd. So you all have seen that. Target, DM News, you got guys running ads in there, doing free consults and free critiques. They've been there forever. Local, okay, well, we can find them in the yellow pages. We can find them online. We can find them in other ad media. We can find them in the mailbox, okay? Now, here's 6 gold mines a lot of people don't know about. Huh? Oh, okay. Now, the first one, you'll cringe, but nonetheless. So when I started in speaking, it's even easier now thanks to websites. So when I started in speaking, the first thing I did when I went to my first National Speakers Association meeting, they had a brochure table, and all the speakers put out all their brochures. All their brochures have their client lists and their testimonials in them. Prospects, right? Well, buyer's a buyer's a buyer, right? So I got everybody's brochure, took them home, looked them all up, built my prospect list, right? First of all, they're often not going to hire the same speaker twice, so they're ready for, they need more, some hire more than one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I at least know they've hired a speaker. Well, that's great, right? So a lot of copywriters, those directory pages, they list their clients. Their websites, they list their clients. They list their testimonials. Nobody stays happy with anybody forever. Some clients use more than one. We at least know they paid somebody to write copy. So if I'm going to build a cold list, I would probably play pirate. Number 2, the up-and-coming information marketer. So information marketers, first of all, meaning newsletter publishers, people who sell books, tapes, CDs, courses, coaching programs. Where's the gal with the dental coaching program? Tammy. Not bad. Okay. So Tammy's got like a typical client, right? If we have time, so she's got a really good client because they're selling an expensive, high transaction value coaching program to dentists. They need a lot of stuff. And they need a bunch of stuff they're not even doing now because they need lower level product to build a herd and nurture them. They need multiple websites, not one. They need all kinds of stuff. Okay? And they only got to make like one sale to pay her for another 2 months. So she can live with them a long time. So ideally, you want the up-and-coming info marketer like them. They're just getting their sea legs. They're getting some results. They basically copycat it in order to get where they are. There's a ton of them. A ton of them. Niches have 12, 14, 18. Right now in chiropractic, if you go get Dynamic Chiropractic, the weekly trade journal, and you open it up, there's maybe 60 pages in the whole thing, and 20 pages are full-page ads from information marketers, generating leads mostly to sell them coaching programs, practice management programs, software, staff training, books, tapes, CDs, courses. 2 of the full-page ads are mine for 2 competing clients. Another one is a rewrite of an ad I wrote for another client a couple of years ago. So I got 3 of the pages. Okay? Almost every niche has this. And in part, you can thank me for it. I've created a lot of them. The industry exists largely. So you pick a niche, go get the trade journals, and go online to their online media, and ye shall find them. Okay? And you will find big ones, small ones, established ones, young ones. Okay? There's all kinds of knockoffs all the time. So get restaurant news if you want restaurant guys. Get auto repair, get whatever you want. They're in there. They're all over the place. There's a ton of them. They need a lot of stuff. And the more successful they get, the more stuff they need. So hook up once, you can stay with them for a long, 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 long time. Another resource for finding them, in addition to looking at all the niches. Now, there's also genericists, that are really thorough info marketers. I mean, but the niche guys are usually better to work with. There's also subcultures, so there's niches and subcultures. So if you go get, there's not much in harness racing, but if you go get the pleasure horse magazines, for example, there's like guys like John Lyons. There's a zillion people doing horse whisperer stuff. So they're running boot camps, conferences, selling training programs, selling coaching to horse owners to teach them how to talk to their horse, train their horse, get the horse to do tricks. There's a ton of them. Right? Lyons is probably the most sophisticated. He runs a business like Glazer Kennedy's business, but there's a ton of them. Right? You can easily find them. Another resource is the Information Marketing Association. So if you don't know, go to info-marketing.org. Okay? Direct marketing companies hidden in or near your town. So we can find them by looking at all direct marketing companies. So we can get the big directory of catalog companies, for example, and we can find all the ones that are in Cleveland or all the ones that are in Ohio. Okay? All I got to do is go through the directory. I can also do it online. Okay? So now I found, like Vitamix is based here, for example, big direct marketing company. What's on Earth, the catalog guys, they're based here. There's a slew of them. There's a bunch of them I don't know that are here, I promise you. Okay? One of my first clients many, many years ago was a company, direct marketing company, sells high-priced custom-made bowling balls through bowling alleys. So they've got a thing, and the guy in the bowling alley sells you the real expensive ball. He's right here in Akron, Ohio. And I found him by accident. But if I'd been looking, I would have found him on purpose. So let me give you my stealth tactic for these companies. So here's what I would do if I was starting from scratch right now and I wanted some clients in Cleveland. If and when I retire and decide to spend 6 months out of the year in Orlando, if I then feel like I want a couple of clients, I will use this strategy exactly as I'm about to describe it to you. It'll be a little easier for me to use, but I'll still use it exactly as I am about to describe it to you. I got a speaker completely fill he wanted to work at home instead of travel. I solved this whole problem years ago in Milwaukee with exactly the same strategy. This is easier than the letter you're sending to. Now, it's sneaky. So you may have an ethical problem with it. I don't know. I suggest you get over it. And you can make it real if you wish. For me, it would be easy to make it real. For you, it might be a little more difficult. But here's the strategy. So we make our target list of these companies. We get the CEOs' names. And we send them a letter that is somewhat like this. I'm so-and-so. I edit such and such newsletter. I'm working on such and such a book. Okay? And I am out to interview the 10 leading, smartest direct marketing CEOs in Orlando. And I need 30 minutes. I prefer to do it in person, but I'll do it on the phone if you prefer. And I want to include you in my special report, my newsletter, my book, whatever. Now you will get appointments to go see these CEOs. Not all of them, but most of them. Now, the more real you make it, the better, but there's a way that it doesn't even need, so here's, if you can't make it real. So here's what I did for the speaker. So this guy'd been on the road, he's a leadership guy, doing leadership training. So he's on the road, now he wants to stay at home because he married a woman half his age and they're having babies, so he doesn't want to travel anymore. So he needs a bunch of work in Milwaukee. So when he came to me, his strategy was your strategy, right? I want a great sales letter about me and my leadership training, and here's the companies I'm going to go to. And I said, I'm not that good, and we should live so long. Okay? But he's pretty good. I said, look, if you get face to face with these guys and you have a conversation with these guys, it's good. Some of them are going to convert to diagnostic conversations, and bingo, you're going to be home free. You're good enough to be okay when you get face to face. But getting face to face that way, we'll be here forever. I said, so I don't want your money for that. I said, but I'll take your money for this. Much easier letter to write. I'm going to charge you the same amount of money, but it'll work better. Is that okay with you? Yeah. I said, you're sure? Yeah. So I wrote it before he left. So the letter basically is, I'm so-and-so. I'm this leadership guy. Attached is an article about me from whatever magazine had written an article about him, and a list of my clients, because he's been running all around the country. He's got a client list, right? I'm now doing a special survey in Milwaukee of the leading CEOs and executives of mid-sized companies in X industry, Y industry, Z industry. And it's a comprehensive diagnostic survey of what's going on in their companies, good, bad, and indifferent. All the information is going to be confidential, but it's all going to be aggregated into this big report, and everybody who participates in a survey will get the report and have access to all of the compiled information that I have about best practices, solutions to the most difficult problems everybody's experiencing in their business, yada, 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 right? So the only way to get access to the information is to play, okay? And it's a private study just for the people who participate, and there's no charge, because I'm doing it because I'm working on a book called Leadership in the 21st Century, okay? Which, of course, the book will never be. The book's a figment of my imagination. Now, to make it even better, I sent him to the Milwaukee Business Journal and had him get the Milwaukee Business Journal agree in advance to publish an in-depth article on the results of the survey. So then we just tweaked the letter. Oh, by the way, this is sponsored by the Milwaukee, which now explains why it's free. I've been engaged by, slight lie, the Milwaukee Business Journal, and the Milwaukee Business Journal is going to publish a synopsis of all the research, okay? So it's completely nothing, right? Think about it. We're doing a survey and a special report that we're only going to publish for the people who participated in the survey, right? And there's an article going to appear in the newspaper. This thing is fiction from beginning to end, but I made it real, right? And everybody wanted it. So I don't remember the exact numbers anymore. This is a while ago. But we mailed roughly 300 CEOs. Okay? He got just shy of 100 meetings. Okay? So it's like just nearly a 30% response. Okay? So he went in for his half-hour interviews with all these guys. And he's talking to them about the worst problem in your business, the thing you can't solve, what's driving you crazy, and then into your people problems, which, of course, is where he wanted to live, right? Now, no overt selling then, even if they pressed him. No, I really can't stay, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And he goes home and he sends them some stuff, whether they ask for it or not, but better the ones that ask. You know, you started to ask me about X. Here's a copy of an article I wrote about this. Here's a study from thus and so. Here's this or that, you know. And if you'd like to discuss it more in depth, since you were kind enough to participate in the survey, you know, let's have lunch. Guy booked himself silly. Now, he was a decent salesperson once he got to the lunch part, but he booked himself silly. Now, he sold, I don't remember the price, but he sold a 2-day diagnostic deal. He comes in the company, interviews everybody, watches, observes, you know, and then does a report of findings to the executive, and then out of that he sells a package. Same strategy will work for any of us. Okay? So whoever you want to get to, do you think it's easier to get to them where they know you're trying to sell them something, or when you're appealing to their ego and you're going to interview them and you're going to flatter them and you're going to publish them? Which do you think is easier? The second's easier, I promise you. Okay? So that's the sneak attack. Okay? B2B companies that don't think of themselves as direct marketers, but are, So a lot of B2B guys don't think of themselves as direct marketers as all, but they really are. Businesses with very good transaction value and poor unconverted lead follow-up. Okay? You find this by mystery shopping. So take a bunch of businesses that have high transaction value that you might want to work for, cosmetic dentistry company, big company like Miracle Hair, whatever, play prospects, see what happens. Document it all. Okay? If they got crappy follow-up on their leads, but they generate leads, golden opportunity for you. They're good prospects. You want to get to them. Last source is OPC, which stands for other people's customers. Now, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. So, some strategies. There's the industry survey strategy, which we really just talked about. There's the interview strategy we just talked about. There's the place yourself in the center strategy. This is pretty cool. This is really very funny, actually. He's done for the year, which is what he tells me is the thing. So he gets referrals all year long from the people who were at the dinner. He gets a flurry right after the dinner, but then he gets referrals all year long from the people at the dinner, and he doesn't do anything else but stay in touch with them. So people get the list, a postcard, I'm in Europe, yada, yada, yada. They get an article, I thought you should see. He's really good at that. So there's a lot of touch to sort of remind you of the obligation without ever stating it. Okay? And of course, you want to get to go next year. So that's the other pressure. It's kind of like the Publishers Clearinghouse, right? They tell you you don't have to buy a magazine to win, but everybody kind of knows. If it's an entry without a magazine order, we all know where it's going. So if we really want to play in a lottery, we're going to enter, right? So we start to think about the middle of the year of this next year's dinner. And Carla's going, are we going to Summer's dinner next year? Because I got to get another dress, right? I want to go. Are we going? Did you get your invitation yet? When do you get your invitation? And I'm thinking, oh, shit, right? I better refer somebody to this guy because I don't know if he's going to invite me or not invite me if there's no productivity here. So now, in the next month or so, oh, yeah, you know what? You should talk to Summers. And bingo, he's got a referral. Right? It's brilliant. I mean, it's the cleverest thing I've ever seen. Now, it's expensive, but it's all over with at one time, right? Okay? And in the last few years, he went and found a co-host, right, who's he's an investor guy. I think he's picking up the whole tab. I'm not sure, but I think he's picking up the whole tab because Summers is actually pretty cheap. So this is the put yourself in the center strategy. By the way, for the next 4 days at the NSA convention, too, what's everybody talking about? They're talking about the dinner. Were you at that dinner? Did you go? Yes, no. Can you get me in? How does it work? What went on there? So the buzz for the next 4 days is him too, right? It's just brilliant. You could do it with any association. Any association you want, you could do it. First couple of years are rough, right? You got to push to get people in there. After the first couple of years, everybody's trying to get in there. The rent a person of influence strategy. So 2 stories. So in 1980 or 81, very stupidly, the principle is, you want to remember it with clients, it's a lot easier to get in than it is to get out of anything. So there's a company, they're a schizophrenic company. They're like half Nightingale Conan, for those of you who know what Nightingale Conan is. And they're half really a custom audio cassette production company for speakers and authors. And at the time, probably, I don't know, a third of the National Speakers Association are their clients. And they are so upside down, they're public, by the way. They are so far upside down financially, it isn't even funny. They're like bleeding money, which I knew. I just didn't know how much they were bleeding. So I buy this company for $1 down, because everybody wants to get rid of it, take over all the debt, which is monstrous, and I get 49% of the stock, and I got an option to buy the rest of it for some reasonable price 3 years later, right? So I got this baby. Well, their problems are far greater than I knew. So their reputation is actually not very good because they have quality control problems like nobody has ever seen. Okay? I mean, Toyota's problems are nothing compared to this. I quantified it the first month. Is 87% of everything they produce and sent out the door, there's something wrong with it. It was either shipped to the wrong people, it had the wrong labels on it, something was wrong. 87% of the product. Right? Our assembly line was like gods for snowflakes. Every item is unique. Unfortunately, when a guy buys 10,000 six-cap albums, they're all supposed to be the same. So, I mean, I am up to my ass in problems. And half of their clients owe them a ton of money and pay them late and don't pay them. So that's another whole problem. So I have got to fix this thing. I got to fix all the problems, but it needs money and it needs business. And I am actually not all that well liked by a majority of the market, the National Speaker Association. However, the president of NSA at the moment, which is an elected office, is a guy who's very well liked. And everybody thinks he's God. Right? And like most people, you can't buy him, but you can rent him. So I rent him. We're producing something for him. So I have the candid conversation of, A, happy to have you as a client because we really need the bragging rights. You know, this thing's really beat up and screwed up and I'm fixing it. But what I really need is I need you walking around with your arm around my shoulder somehow every place everybody can see us. That's what I really need. Okay? I need like endorsement. And I don't have any money, but what else do you want? Right? Well, you can owe me some money, and you can produce a ton of stuff for me for nothing. Great, okay. So he holds me up pretty good, because I asked for it. So, I mean, it was brutal, but still, it was the best brutality I've ever endured. So we booked 4 cities, and he and I go and do 2-day business building seminars for speakers for free. Right? And so it's God and me, right? Sponsored by this company. That's why it's free, and I'm free to pitch. Right? In 4 cities combined, I think we had 800 and some odd people. So I mean, we had big market share go through this thing. And the blessing was everything. Everybody wanted to do business where this guy did business. And we were producing Cadillac shit for him. Gold embossed, 4-color, big packages. Cost me a fortune, but not as much as writing him a check outright. And much better than anything we were producing for anybody else, of course, but that's what we're showing, right? Turned the entire thing around. Now, the rent was stiff, but you can rent them. So in any industry, in any closed population, there are such things as revered elders who are no longer really active, who miss the prominence and the limelight. They can be rented. There are guys like him who are opportunists. They can be rented. Okay? So the rent strategy is a good strategy. Okay? Directories. So here's a directory of major mailers. I'm on page 151. So again, what I would do here, personally, is I would go through and find companies that I felt like would be good for me. So here's Drip Investor Newsletter. I can get the size of their list. I know what kind of offer they do. Okay. There's one in here I found in Cleveland. Here's Beauty Boutique in Cleveland, Ohio. So they're great for me. Different ones would be good for you. But if I was going to prospect now, I would either overtly prospect like I overtly prospected for her, but very niched to the type of business, or I would do a sneak attack. And I would use my survey technique. But I would find companies that were using direct mail, using direct marketing, had good sized customer lists, had good transaction value, and so forth. I got to skip over a couple things. Okay, here, go to page 157. This I want to show you at least. Yeah, I want to show you this, and then you may need a pee break. I was going to try and go all the way to 6 o'clock, but maybe you need a pee break. So here's the total roadmap for getting clients in numbers in a niche. And then I'm going to show you something magic about how to speed it up. So number one, so any niche. So let's say we're going to do chiropractors, we're going to do dentists, we're going to do mail order companies that sell dog products, pet products, whatever niche you want. You decide on a niche. Now, here's how we're going to attack it. We got to establish presence. So we need web presence, website customized for that niche. Because if we're going to go after dog product companies, we got to be the dog product direct response copywriter guy. We can't be the direct response copywriter guy. So we need a website. We need articles in the publications, which usually isn't that hard to do. We may have to buy ads. We have to publish and be published. We'll talk later about how to make the advertising free by selling something of your own, which pays for the ad cost but allows you to advertise you for free. We got to be known for something. A radical rebel who's a critic of the industry's marketing, an absolute genius in continuity programs, something. We got to be known for something. We got to find a way to stimulate buzz in that niche in addition to advertising and being published. We either got to speak at a big conference, we got to do the Summers White thing, we got to go exhibit in a unique way, we got to create some buzz so they're talking to each other. Who is this guy? Do you know anything about this guy? What's this about? We can leapfrog, so we got to tie ourselves to respected elders, leaders in the field, so we either befriend them, borrow them, rent them, or buy them. We host Parasite if we can. I'm going to get to other people's customers in a second. We make it possible for us to pay for advertising, as I said, by selling something. If there's a bunch of little accounts to be had, we may want a factory approach to copywriting. And we may want to hard package what it is that we offer. So now let me show you that, because this can help a lot of you. So here's from 1980. So in chiropractic, which I backed into by accident. So I'm really accessing other people's customers, which I will get to. And I'm talking about, writing about, advising about practice marketing, how to get patients in the door. And inevitably that brings people forward who say, okay, you showed us how to do it. Will you just do the Yellow Pages ad for us? Will you do a brochure? Will you do a direct mail campaign? Which is exactly what I want to ask. They're all relatively small. You know, they're solo practitioners. Okay? So I productized my services. So if you look at page 158, I recreated this as best I could. I couldn't find the old piece anymore. But so anytime I spoke, anytime somebody inquired, anytime they were referred, instead of, yeah, I can write copy for this, that, or the other thing to put patients in the door, I said, here's our two packages. You pick package A or you pick package B. Okay? So here's what that does. A, it gives me an A-B offer. So generally speaking, if you give people a yes or yes option, most people pick a yes. Okay? They just do. Okay? It gave me something concrete to sell. Instead of this whole discussion of, what are we going to do? How much is it going to cost? Can we wait till later to do this? What if I do? Instead of that whole, I eliminated the whole discussion. And really, I'm doing the same thing for everybody anyway. It made it easy to say yes to, because they didn't have to have the discussion either, which they don't really know how to have that discussion. Okay? It eliminated all negotiation. because there's no discussion of fee. Here's your package, here's your price. Right? So I productized my offer. This also allowed me to easily deal with my hosts. So one form of host parasite is speaking. So big practice management company has me come in and speak about marketing, and they got 300 doctors in a room, and I get to do 2 hours about everything they should be doing to do advertising effectively and bring patients in the door. Okay? The normal gig in that environment is you have a box, tapes, CDs, books, whatever. You sell it, and you split the money 50-50 with the host. If I want to get them all as clients, there's a delay, everybody's paying a different price. So this makes it possible to do the split with the host. Now my conversation with the host was, I can't give you 50 because I got to do all this work, right? But I can give you 25. So instead of selling a box from the front of the room, I sold this from the front of the room. And now for the rest of the 3 days, I met with everybody 10 minutes at a time, signed them up, scheduled their follow-up work, and took their money. So I productized my services. Get it? Now let's tie it to OPC. Then we'll take a pee break. Change my mind. You don't need to pee. I actually need to pee. That's why we're taking a break. I don't care about you, but I actually. So OPC stands for other people's customers. There's 3 kinds of capital in business. There's other people's money, which is what everybody thinks about. There's other people's resources, and there's other people's customers. All the money and the power is in the customers. That's where all the value is. Right? So the fastest way for you to get clients is to get them from somebody else's customers that they've already rounded up and organized, rather than you having to go find them one at a time. Especially if you want to work with, you want to do small account stuff, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, like I just showed you. But do a bunch of it, where really you've templated everything and you're rolling it. So you need a host. You need somebody who will let you at their customers, either by speaking, doing a teleseminar, doing a special report that goes out with their newsletter that drives everybody to you. Somehow you want at their customers. So in chiropractic, see, I lived off 3 practice management companies. That the modern word for that would be coaching, who had regular conferences and regular coaching calls, and so I became their ad guy. I'm their advertising guy. Big hole in their business. They're really good at management, really good at monetizing the patient, terrible at advertising. So I'm their ad guy. I come on their coaching calls, I show up at their events, I teach, and then if people want me to do stuff for them, they pick box A or they pick box B. And we split the revenue. So I had 3 of them, all feeding me. Right? So what can you provide if you're a parasite in order to make that kind of relationship work? First, a solution to the hole in their ability to satisfy their group. So in my case, the hole was advertising that worked. They didn't have any, they didn't know how to do it, they couldn't satisfy, so they could teach these docs how to run their practice better, they could solve their staff problems, they could solve their fee problems, they could teach them a good case presentation. The hole in their business was stuff that brought people in the door. Great, I'll fill the hole for you. Right? It'll stop all their pissing and moaning, it'll make them happier, and you don't have to figure it out. I can fill the hole. Differentiation for the host versus competitors. So the addition of you, differentiation, added value, customization in a business otherwise standardized. So they may be giving them a generic manual, right? But nothing's customized. You can actually work off their stuff and do customization. Implementation of the host stuff. Biggest reason why people drop out of practice management programs, coaching programs, all these kind of programs is because they don't implement what they're being taught. Right? So even if the guy teaches them how to do all the stuff on my list, here's what a newsletter, here's you should do this newsletter, here you should do this patient reactivation campaign, you should do this. They go home and they don't do it. You provide implementation. Stickiness, because if anybody quits, they lose access to you. Okay? Free money to the host. Hosts love free money. No work, you get money. I mean, in this case, the one host, I would go to Atlanta, spend 3 days at his conference in Atlanta, right, and write the guy a check for 200 grand. Right? Well, he's happy as a clam, right? So am I. Right? Improve customer value so he can spend more money acquiring customers. What must you provide? An easy to understand proposition for the host. They're busy, everybody's banging on them, everybody wants to get at their customers, but nobody gives them a good reason why they should let them. Ask little or no work from the host. You will kill any of these arrangements with franchisors, trade associations, info marketers, coaching program managers, if you ask them to do stuff. They do not want more stuff to do. So everything's got to be done for them. Safety. The ethical ones, their biggest worry will be crap flushing upstream. That they will let you at their customers will be unhappy, and they will never hear the end of it. And or there'll be a mess that they'll have to step in and clean up. So that has to be, you got to convince them you're safe, you're reliable, you usually got to guarantee what you do and actually bear the cost of some refunds. Next, you got to manage them like a retarded child. They have a lot of stuff to pay attention to. You're a small blip on, so they say yes, but after the yes, what you do need them to do, you got to really manage hard. Make the incentive and motivation as generous as possible. You have to think about what it would cost you to get those clients independently on your own in money and time, and then be willing to pay that or at least more. Obligate, consider paying forward. Now, you have to have money to do this, but I had a client very recently, and we wanted a parasite relationship with him for a particular host. We tried kind of to get him, and yeah, maybe, you know. So we sent the guy a check for $50,000 as an advance on the relationship, but you couldn't cash the check unless we were implementing this month. Very hard for people to send checks back. It doesn't matter how much money they have, they can't stand it. I think you could pull it off with Trump. They just can't stand to send a check back. So paying forward nudged it over. Utopia is when not only are they going to make money from you, they're going to plug a hole and have better satisfied customers as a result of you, but you also have some means to give them reciprocity. So you have some means to provide them with promotion, fame, credibility, whatever. So if you publish a newsletter, you have a way to do that. If you have a blog, you have a way to do that. If you write books, you have a way to do that. What you should avoid, sleeping with the host for free to be pimped, okay? Meaning doing work for free for him in order to make the relationship work. Bad idea. Okay? That's not what we do here. Okay? You want me to do work for you, you pay. This deal over here is a separate deal. Okay? And being easily replaced after you create this new profit center. You have to be careful about that, because you create it and somebody wakes up one day and says, wait a minute, yeah, I got 200 grand, but he got 200 grand. Why don't we just hire somebody for 32 grand a year and do all this internally and keep all the money? So you got to be careful. You've made yourself pretty indispensable. This is a big bargain because money paid to the host is usually less, no more than a bit more, than what you'd have to spend to go get clients on your own. The clients are likely to be of higher quality than you would get on your own because the host has already trained them to some extent. Okay? The host's endorsement gives you authority with them, which is particularly important when you don't have a lot of authority on your own. If they got a great relationship with the host and they're paying them a lot of money, and he says, you're the guy, you're the guy. The fact that you woke up yesterday and decided to write copy really doesn't matter now. You're the guy, because he said so. There's a continuation system here, because once you've got this in place, it just rolls on. So now you get to recapture some time that you would have to spend prospecting and chasing clients. And success with one of these can leverage you into more. The trade association, still not going to pay. You can have a trade association as an unwilling host. So let's talk about the unwilling host. It works good with a trade association because they have media. So let's assume you encounter an industry you want to penetrate, and you have a really uncooperative trade association. So they are in your way more than they are helpful. Now you get to make a decision, and one possible decision is to use the conflict to your advantage. I have done this my whole life. So I did it in chiropractic with the state chiropractic associations. I just went ahead and declared war on them. I did the same thing with the National Speakers Association. And this is one of my favorite ads. Page 162. This is an ad that the National Infomercial Association refused to run in their trade journal. And this is a proactive prospecting ad for clients. Okay? And they refused to run it because it basically craps all over everybody who's doing business with everybody in the infomercial industry. And they thought it was probably not a good idea. Right? You get an idea just from the subhead. An expert is a guy who knows 1,001 sexual positions but can't get a date on Friday night. Okay? So they refused to run the ad. I couldn't have been happier. I was dancing because I mailed the ad to everybody. Headline, here's the ad. The National Infomercial Marketing Association refuses to run. This is the first page of a 16-page sales letter made to look like a supplement to my newsletter. Why have they refused this ad? Okay. I got more business than I ever would have got if they had run the damn ad. Okay. So refusing it was the nicest thing they ever did to me. Now, they were very grumpy about this, by the way. And ultimately, they sent me a cease and desist. They threw me out of the association. And then they sent me a cease and desist. And that was even with political cover, because Guthrie Raker's big political cover in that world. But still, they threw me out of the association, which I mailed everybody and said, I've been thrown out of the association. Well, when you're a member, you're not supposed to mail the directory. If I'm not a member, I can mail the hell out of the directory. So that produced a bunch of business, too. Now, there's a decision about all that you got to make and decide whether or not you're comfortable with it. But more often than not, in most industries, there is a segment of the industry. So in most associations, there's a segment of the association. They tend to be the smartest pencils in the box who are renegades themselves. And they are at odds with the traditional wisdom and norms of their industry and the association. So they gravitate to the outlaw. Now, you wind up with political problems with that association for life. You know. But you wind up with a lot of clients. So you decide how you want to play that. Transition markets and milk cow accounts. Right? So how do we leave the job? How do we keep from starving, et cetera? The first thing you should know is there's a transition market where you don't want to live forever. You may not want to be there 3 years from now. But there's a lot of work to be had at relatively small money for each project. So that's what I did in chiropractic. Now, I productized the offer, which I showed you, and I templated the work. So the work was very quick to do. But it was also low-fee work. Now, I did a lot of it, so it was very profitable. Did I want to be doing it forever? No. Did I want to run a factory? No. Did I want to? No. But I wanted to pay the bills. So somewhere, it might be your local community, it might be an industry, it might be an industry in your local community, it might be everybody who's in, it might be all the bicycle shops in America for whom you, for one reason or another, have great affinity because you're a bicycling freak and you compete in bicycle marathons and you can do great marketing for bicycle shops, and maybe they'll each only pay $1,500 for a whole marketing system. But if you get 100 of them, you got a six-figure income. So somewhere there's a transition market. It's sort of like rebound dating. You know you're not going to keep this person. You know 2 years from now you don't want to be waking up and looking at them. But right now, between husband or wife 1 and husband or wife 2, got to date somebody. They're available. Right? Same deal here. They're available. The biggest asset they have is availability. Right? So there's a transition market somewhere for you that you have affinity with one way or another, and you have a way to access. Ideally, you can find a way to access it with a host, so you tap other people's customers. It could be the chamber. I mean, it could be any number of groups. Okay? Could be a state association, a local association. So you want to look for a transition market where getting the work is easy, and you can template it, so doing it is easy. That's one option. Another option is the milk cow account. I had one of those early too. So the milk cow account is somebody they're not going to pay you what you're worth. They're not going to pay the appropriate fee, but they'll pay every week, or they'll pay every 2 weeks, or they'll pay every month. And in some cases, they'll give you money, plus they'll give you other stuff. So my milk cow account for a year and a half, they gave me an office, they gave me a receptionist, they gave me reception services, they gave me some other access to their other resources, and they cut me a check every week. And I wrote everything for them. Now, none of it was rocket science stuff, but there was volume. They needed a lot of stuff. Okay? All going out to customers, mostly, not acquisition stuff. So it was fine. I mean, I didn't have to worry about the light bill, I didn't have to worry about the car payment. I didn't have to worry about any of that. Now, it sucked up about 2 days a week, but still, it left me a lot of time, and it gave me an office. They're out there all over the place. And if you're doing any prospecting at all, you will encounter them, and you will find somebody who will be happy to have that kind of relationship with you. It's even better if they have some cachet. So not only do you solve your money problem, but they have some leverage in getting other clients. The last sort of level of that is wholesale work. It's the least desirable because you don't get any bragging rights from it. You don't get any credibility from it. It has no leverage. But a whole lot of people have done it, including Halbert Carlton and me. Ad agencies, big printing companies, big direct marketing companies who are reselling the work. So, like I had 2 ad agencies for the whole first year that I was doing a lot of freelance copywriting who didn't have anybody there that could write direct response copy to save their life. So if a client insisted on doing DR, which they discouraged, of course, to the greatest extent that they could, because the last thing an ad agency wants is measurement and accountability. But if they couldn't discourage the client, they had me sneaking in and out of the back door doing the work for them and letting the client think they were doing it. And they're paying wholesale money. It's very inelegant. But a lot of journeymen in our field, who might not admit it, live off of this and or live off doing rough drafts for other copywriters. So again, I won't mention his name because many of you would know him. But there's a guy been at this for 30 years. Now, he advertises retail, if you will. So he advertises in DM News and Target and stuff. He's there all the time. But I'll bet he hasn't had 10 retail clients in his life. Okay? He mostly writes for other copywriters. It is hidden and concealed and works cheap, but works fast. Now, personally, I would never put anything he wrote in the mail. But I can see people using them to do rough drafts because it saves them a lot of time. And the guy's okay. I mean, he's all right, So these arrangements can be made, by candid conversation with people running ad agencies, marketing agencies, and other copywriters. Is, look, I need to pay the light bill. And it's going to be 2 or 3 years before I got my sea legs here. But look here, I can do good work. And I'll work wholesale. Nobody needs to know I exist. I'll sign an agreement. I'll never go after the clients. So I'm your secret. Okay? But I want money, and I want enough money to pay my light bill. Those deals exist. And you may or may not need one or want one. Let's skip to no fee. Let's skip to 171. So situations where you might want to take on a client with no fee. So one is where there's a back-end profit center clearly there. This basically was Jay Abraham's modus operandi for many years. It's a little more complicated than this. And Jay would actually put up the money. But basically, Jay would spot a company that had a great front end, they had a bunch of leads, they had a bunch of customers, and they were doing a terrible job with their back end. And he would say, I'm going to create this back end, and I'll take all the risk, and I'll fund the marketing. You just let me at the customers, and we'll split the revenue thus and so. And so this really was Jay's approach to clients. The more sophisticated part of it is he chose ones he could loop around with other ones. So he could sell this one stuff to this client and this one stuff to this client. So it was easy to do the back ends. You may not want to fund it, but with small businesses and small companies, you don't have to. So here's the other story. Same way though, he funds it, but still. So there's this retired dentist who goes around, he works out of his big motorhome, and he goes where he wants to go. And then he gets a dentist in that area to let him do a reactivation campaign to their inactive patients and splits the revenue. Now he knows going in, as soon as he determines they don't have a good reactivation campaign and they're doing it haphazard. So most of them are sending out a postcard that looks like the postcard you get from Quick Lube. It's time for your oil change, come in. So that's like dental reactivation marketing. Or they're making their staff call them. Okay? So the dentist is telling the staff, when you're not busy, call these inactive patients and try and get them in here. Guess what the staff's doing? You got it. Miraculously, they're always busy. And by the way, you can't blame them. Who wants to do that? And of course, the doc never incentivizes them. So as soon as the guy determines that, he swoops in, right? Just let me at the files. I'll run the whole reactivation campaign. I'm going to do a 3-step mailing. I'm going to give them a toothbrush, yada, yada, yada. And we're going to split the revenue on whatever the first transaction is that happens when they come in 50-50. Guy does great. He's been doing it for at least a decade that I know of. It tells you how much stored value there is laying in most businesses on the back end that they don't exploit. So, if you went home tomorrow and started to hunt, probably within a mile of your house, there is some business that has customers and or leads that they are not exploiting in one way or another that is relatively easy to do, but does require copywriting skill. Here are the big ones to look for. Actually, I'll reorder them. Appointment, no sale with no follow-up. That's spectacular. So, car dealership. Their religion is they show them the car, they either buy or they don't buy. Nobody does any follow-up. 70+% of all cars are bought by people who go back to the dealership 2 or more times. So there's their belief system and there's fact. The average person buys a car over 3 weekends. Okay? So there's a window of time to get to them. Car dealership, dental office, chiropractic office, weight loss centers, any place that sells by appointment. Okay? So the question is, what do you do after they come and you do your presentation and they don't buy? And if the answer is nothing, perfect. Okay? Then I'll do it. And I'll do it all. In this case, you probably want them to pay for the marketing. In some cases, you'll get by with email because almost anything will produce something. Now, if you happen to be brilliant, so much the better. But you don't have to be. So appointment, no sale. Ideally, you want them selling something that is relatively pricey. Okay? So appointment, no sale. An even better one, if you can find them, is appointment, no sales, where they have them in clumps. So like, you'll see financial advisors running seminars, like for senior citizens, and they get them all to the seminar and they feed them dinner and they tell them about the state law and then they sign them up for appointments, right? Well, most of them are no good at doing a seminar, first of all. They've bought a kit from somebody on how to fill the seats, or they're having the seats filled for them, and then they're no good at the seminar, and they're wimpy about closing on the appointment. So if they have 80, 100 seniors in a room, if they book 10 appointments, it's a miracle. Okay? The rest of them are perfectly good leads, and 9 out of 10 of them do nothing with them. So a 3-step direct mail campaign to sell that appointment with a decent gift with appointment, you'll put people in his office. And you can do it in a clump because he's got a bunch of them. Right? So appointment no sale is one place that with the right situation, you could take somebody for no fee, just share of revenue, and rock and roll. Another one is first-time customers who haven't returned to repeat within a logical time frame, which means they're going to lose them. Okay? So you got to determine they're not doing anything about it, there's a logical time frame, and there's a monetary value for that return. There's going to be an offer of which you can get a piece of the action. Could be a restaurant, could be a dry cleaner, could be a gym, could be a fitness center, could be a hair salon, could be any of them. Okay? Because they all get a customer in once, and then for the most part, they don't do anything particularly to get them back the second time, and yet there's a time when they should be back. Cross-sells ignored. So they got a bunch of customers, and some buy X, some buy Y, and nothing's being done to sell Y to X or sell X to Y. Okay? And obviously, the bigger the business, the better, but any business that has this failing, there's usually money to be had, and money to be had relatively easily with a decent email, mail, etc. campaign. Trade or consumer show leads not worked. It's a great one because there's big numbers usually. So the door company, the heating and air conditioning company, the spa company, all those guys that exhibit at the mall or at the home show. They all have a free drawing. They all rack up a bunch of leads. They all, if they do anything, they mail them the same stupid brochure they gave them at the show. The sales guys who are supposed to work them don't. And there's all these leads they pay for. And all these people were at least interested enough to go to the home show. Some percentage of them were actually interested in that booth. Okay? That's why they went in there. Good follow-up campaign, you'll make money. So those are opportunities that exist right in anybody's area. They're small, but 10 of them put together are significant. And they are situations where you might want to work free. Second situation, beat the controls. But my caveats are, you got to do a beat the control for a firm you know will test and will track and will pay honestly. And it's best to propose it rather than respond to a cattle call. So you pick them. And you see the control. And you should know what you're going to do. So you should have reason to believe you can beat the control. go pitch it. Here's who I am, here's what I do, I normally get paid X, I've examined your piece, I'm certain I can beat the results. So if you know the results, if you track your results, and you'd like to beat your results, and we can agree on a payment formula, and you will prove to me that you will conduct X size test, I'll do the work on spec. Do you want to play? Do you not want to play? Other possibilities that are all temptations, friends and family, don't do it. Charities, if you must, but at least be smart. Most charities make a lot of money. Nonprofit is a tax term for the most part. It's not a reality. I did pro bono work once for the Arthritis Foundation chapter in Phoenix until I found out what the executive director was making. And I said, no more pro bono. Right? You work pro bono, I'll work pro bono. Well, you're making $500,000 a year and you got a company car? I want paid. I got a referral about 6 months ago, the Navy SEALs, based in San Diego, got recruiting problems. So will you come talk to us about our recruiting marketing? Sure, happy to do that. Free. No, I'm not happy to do that. You mean free? Well, it's your patriotic duty. And it's an honor. Hardly anybody outside even gets invited on the premises. You'll get a tour, you'll get your picture taken. Wonderful. So let me explain something to you. I paid 7 figures in taxes. Okay? So here's the deal. My patriotic duty was taken care of long ago. Okay? B, none of you guys are working for free. Okay? So, and it's an honor for the feds to get my money, but I don't see anybody sending me a plaque. I don't even get a thank you note. Okay? So I'm not coming to do the Navy SEALs for free. You know, I'm happy to do it for money, but I'm not doing it for free. Charities, political campaigns and causes. They should pay you. They pay everybody else. Okay? Don't be suckered into working for free. They pay everybody else. It's a major industry. Businesses in crisis, again, if they can't afford to pay you, you probably shouldn't be there. And peers will try and intimidate you into it as sharing. You know, well, we're all in the same association. We're all in the same industry, and so we share. Well, fine, but I do this for a living, okay? So I don't share. Okay? My sharing style, buy a drink. You know, I'm happy to talk what we do. You know, so speakers, if you want to talk about speaker horror stories and hotels and meals, happy to do that. If you want to talk about marketing, we're on the clock because I do this for a living. This is not sharing. Okay? So you want to stay out of situations that don't lead anywhere. I gave you a few samples. I just want to quickly let you know what you have. So page 173, this is the list of all the speakers at the Success events who I appeared with my name in the middle. Okay? Peter's strategy, by the way, for the entire Success events goes back to rental. So in order to make himself famous, he hired famous people and put them around him. Okay, that's what he did. This is a useful piece. You want to think about how you can connect yourself to names that are meaningful or impressive to your target market almost in any way you can. Speaking is a great opportunity because often no-name speakers appear on programs with name speakers. So you may be doing the breakout in the basement at the State Association of Plumbing Contractors in Kansas, right? But President Clinton's upstairs doing a general session. Well, it's not that much of a stretch. You're on the same program. You could say same platform. You were, actually, just at different times. Okay? So you want to look for ways to connect yourself. Okay? Page 174 is a newsletter, a trade journal in the dental industry that named me has a number one pick as practice growth guru of this year. Right? They named me because we had a back-end joint venture. Okay? It didn't happen spontaneously. Doesn't make any difference. I used the hell out of it when I was marketing in those situations. So when you have relationships with people who publish, you want them to write about you and you want them to give you awards. They may not think about it on their own, so you may need to suggest it to them, which I did. I said, wouldn't it be cool if you gave out awards to the best of everything in the profession? Because that gives you leverage with people you want. He said, that is a great idea. I said, and be sure I get the award for Practice Marketing Guru. I don't care who else you give the awards to, but give me that one, you know. These are just articles from trade journals, relatively easy to get done if you make a point of it. I did a lot of it when I worked niches. So that's an article from a chiropractic trade journal, another article from a chiropractic trade journal. America West is pretty cool. I'm flying on America West one day, who I affectionately called America Worst. And I'm listening to the in-flight thing. And there was like nothing on there about business. There's rock music and soft music and comedy and whatever. And so I called them up. And I got their marketing person on the phone, whatever the hell the title was. And I said, how come there's nothing on the in-flight deal about business? He said, well, that's a good idea, but how would we create all that content? I said, okay, I can solve that one for you. Why else wouldn't you have it? Well, how would we create all that content? I said, problem solved. I'll bring you content. Right? So then I called all these other people and said, you want to be on America West? Yeah, we want to be on America West. We want to be on America West real bad. Great. Go record this thing, get it to me, and of course I put myself in, right? And bingo, we were on America West for almost four months. Got a lot of low-level customers out of it, but I got one really good client. The last is a letter to the editor that was published in USA Today about that infernal ever-ready pink bunny guy. Because USA Today had praised the advertising, and the advertising doesn't work. Right? And they're still doing it. I know they're doing it. But it hasn't budged market share one bit the entire time that they've been doing it. And the vast majority of people connect it to the wrong battery company. They know the bunny. They don't remember who the hell the battery is. Right? So a colleague of mine and I wrote in and said all that, and lo and behold, USA Today published it. Right? Now, so that's a letter to an editor. Okay? I did a lot in trade journals, by the way. Now, no client came from it, but the reprint value, which I didn't give you the reprint with the USA Today logo and all that crap on it, the reprint value in my shock and awe package was great because everybody then wanted to talk about it. The ever-ready battery, they all thought it worked, the bunny, and it doesn't, and so forth. Then further, on my montage page, which I didn't bring, of has seen in, I got to add USA Today because I was seen in USA Today. Now the implication is seen doing something other than this, but that's neither here nor there. So I have this montage sheet of all the media I've been seen in. Most of the media I've been seen in, it's more stuff like this than it is anything of significance. Doesn't really make any difference in terms of positioning. It still counts.